Feels like it's been a while, some technical difficulties, some scheduling changes, a Thursday night recording, not a Wednesday night, but this is episode 173 of The Next Best Bet. I'm Jake Higgins with Brett Levy, as always. Looking at last episode, Brett, I didn't do that well, lost my pick of the pod with the Miami of Ohio and Ohio under. I did get two wins with Giants plus 10.5 and the Capitals Lightning under, but overall, you did much better than me last episode.
Hey Higgins, it's gonna happen, right? Every now and then we go over, and every now and then we go undefeated, and that's why you got to celebrate the highs. So yeah, definitely gonna celebrate my 4-0 from episode 172, and try and keep that hot streak going.
Take a look at some futures because we also cashed a few of those. I cashed out of an NFL future I placed. I took Bill Belichick to be the coach of the year. There was still a zero point 0.8 units return on that for me. I didn't like his chances as much as I did when I placed that, so I cashed that out early and took it as a just partial win. But Brett, talking about futures wins, it's been a while, but this is actually our most recent episode since the Braves won the World Series, and you were proven right with your call from all the way back in March.
Yeah, a little more luck, I think, than being proven right. I think if I was going back to March, Brett, he would have said Acuna probably won the MVP, and Soroka might have been a Cy Young candidate. Yeah, obviously those guys were hurt. Ian Anderson also hurt. Charlie Morton goes down in game one. So, even a blind squirrel finds a nut every now and then, Higgins.
Hey, it counts as a W, and at the end of the day, that's all that matters. Puts you above 500 on the year at plus 3 units. I'm sitting just under even at minus 3 units. Let's jump into Beginner's Boulevard, talk about a term that I need to get reacquainted with a little bit, and that's flat betting. On this show, we talk about our bets, and all of them, unless we state otherwise, are 1 unit plays. We are very flat betters in that sense, where we are taking a specific amount of our bankroll and we are betting that with every single one of our bets. Flat betting, though, means that you never change and go with maybe a half unit or multiple unit bet, though. You're always going with the same amount of a bet every single time.
Yeah, it's definitely a strategy I use, Higgins. I like to be a flat better, but I will say for future bets, like I rarely, if ever, go a full unit. I usually cut back on my futures to about a half unit. If I really, really love something, I guess I could get up to like 0.75 of a unit, but I don't think I could ever go a full unit on something that's going to be sitting in the book for a while.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Let's stop the waiting though. We have a long episode to get ahead of us, Brett. We have some NFL, some college football, NBA, college basketball has now started. Some NHL, UFC's coming up this weekend. We have a ton to talk about. We're going to jump into the NFL. We got Thursday night football going on as you and I are recording, so we're not going to talk about the Ravens Dolphins. And Brett, I'd actually like to talk about something else that happened this week. OBJ, officially no longer a Cleveland Brown, cleared waivers, signed by the Rams reportedly on Thursday. It doesn't change the futures options for a Super Bowl champion, though, and the Rams have seemed to stay pretty much the same everywhere. They're plus 800 here in Oregon, plus 750 at some other books that I've seen. I don't know if I can pull the trigger on that, but the Rams have added Von Miller and OBJ. They're definitely pushing their chips in this season.
Yeah, chips are going to the middle of the table for sure. I think Von Miller probably a more impactful signing than OBJ. OBJ, could still be great at some point. Again, we'll see. But if he was playing great this season, Higgins, he would have been on a roster, not on free agency. So, look, I root for OBJ. I want him to succeed, but I think we're more so talking about this because, of the name of the player, what the player's done in the past more so than what he's doing over the last year and a half here. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, and I think OBJ's impact on that offense, honestly, the biggest impact it could have is on what Cooper Cup's numbers are going to end up being. There's been a lot of talk in the historic season he's having this year. What does bringing OBJ in to be the trio to the Cooper Cup, Robert Woods wideouts do for that team? Matthew Stafford has to be happy to have another asset, Brett. Let's take a look at Sunday's games, though. And there's one game that I'm surprised I'm kind of finding myself on it. But Jacksonville, they did get a win last week. They are coming off a 9-6 win against Buffalo. Buffalo's a pretty talented team. And they're traveling into Indianapolis. It's a divisional game, and the line's at plus 10. I always love these division games when they're multi scores like this at plus 10. And I also learned another interesting nugget. Carson Wentz's wife could very well potentially be delivering his baby on Sunday. Carson Wentz has already said he's going to play, but who knows what that means in terms of where his mind could be or anything like that in terms of how his preparation has been this week leading up to Jacksonville. Meanwhile, you have Urban Meyer leading a young squad of Jacksonville Jaguars coming off of a win like that. I think they got to be riding high. They have to have a successful week of practice here, and who knows, they could come in. I don't know if they're going to win, but plus 10, I got to grab that.
Yeah, I think, that's a fair take, Higgins. I don't really have any great read into this game, so I will be rooting for the Jacksonville Jaguars to cover that 10 for you, because we need you to beat the book, baby.
Absolutely, and it's an interesting AFC South right now. I mean, Derrick Henry's injury brought the Titans to a little bit of a stumble, but they got a clear lead in that AFC South. The other three teams, though, they're kind of fighting the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, well, Titans won their first game without Derrick Henry, so we'll see if they can keep it rolling. One game I'm looking at, Higgins, Panthers versus Cardinals. It seems less and less likely each and every day Kyler Murray's going to play this week. So I could be looking at two backup quarterbacks here, Higgins, and I'm going to hop in on this 45.5 early. I'm going to take the under. I think it probably goes down maybe another point, maybe another 2 points. I do think the books have baked in a little bit of the fact that Kyler is still questionable at this point. So I don't think, this is a full Kyler Murray line here. I do think, though, I'm getting a little bit benefit of the doubt because I don't think it's a full Colt McCoy line either. I don't think the books know which quarterback's starting. They probably middled it somewhere, and I'll take that middle number before it gets a little bit lower on Sunday because that's just my belief. I think Murray probably misses this week.
You said that, but you didn't bring up the other quarterback that's going to be playing. Your boy from the XFL, PJ Walker's the starter this week for the Panthers, who also just signed back Cam Newton. Should be an interesting dynamic there in Carolina, I think.
Yeah, well, Cam will have no effect this week.
Oh,
My
absolutely
my
not.
guess is James Morgan will be the backup quarterback for the Panthers this week. But yeah, obviously moving forward, Cam is something for us to keep our eye on. But yeah, I briefly mentioned it, Higgins. I said two backup quarterbacks is what I'm expecting, so that's why I'm going under.
Okay, okay. There's another line, Brett, that I don't know if it's a trap game or what, but it raised a flag to me. I mean, the Broncos, they're hosting the Eagles this week in Denver. And the Broncos are coming off of a fantastic win over the Dallas Cowboys where they just absolutely dominated that game. And now they're less than 3-point favorites to the Philadelphia Eagles and that I don't buy it. I don't buy it. The Eagles, they Jordan Howard is their running back now because Miles Sanders is injured. Jordan Howard, a familiar name in Philadelphia, but still surprising in their backfield. I don't buy this Eagles offense that's been battered up and has been injured to be able to do much against that secondary or against that Broncos defense. I'm going to be taking the Broncos minus 2.5 here. Absolutely.
All right. I guess I probably, if I was to get on this game, Higgins, I'd be looking on the other side. But I'm staying away from this game right now. Not really one that interests me too much. Playing at Denver's always tough, so I think it's fair to favor the home team when I don't think either of these teams is so great, to be honest. I think Denver has a lot more weapons on the outside. I think Philly probably has the more dynamic quarterback. So, just a stay away game for me. But again, I like when you win because I like when people beat the books, Higgins. So,
That's what we're trying to do here.
you may be flipping me. I may be rooting for Denver in this one now.
All right. Well, Denver already has two straight wins against the NFC East. I think they're going to make it a three-peat, 3 straight weeks beating the NFC East. Get a nice little 3-game win streak going.
All right, fair enough. Well, the last game we will touch on here, the Browns take on the Patriots, the OBJ-less Browns, the Nick Chubb-less Browns, the Demetric Felton-less Browns. I think the third running back's out as well, John Kelly. So it's like Dearness Johnson, Donovan Peoples-Jones, and Baker Mayfield. Look, I think the Browns Patriots game, could be a close game, could be really exciting game, but this is not a game I expect to be played in the 20s, Higgins. This is a game I'm looking at to be played in the teens. Two teams that want to run the ball, play conservative football, win with their defense. So give me the under 45.5 on this one, Higgins.
Two unders for you this weekend in the NFL. I like it, Brett. Interesting. Interesting. I mean, we talk some slander on the unders here, but I think you and I are trying to start wise enough, start picking our spots that the right unders are.
You know what, Higgins? There were some lines that intrigued me. Like I could see Buffalo bouncing back, right? Because all the Mike White hype. I could see the Falcons covering 9 points against Dallas. Maybe Dallas is starting to show their true colors. Maybe they're not that 6-1 team from the beginning of the year. Although Dallas gets Michael Gallup back, so like their offense improves. There's a lot of moving parts this week, I think. So I'm staying away from the spreads. We don't know about Aaron Rodgers' status yet. We haven't seen Russell Wilson play in weeks. Like, that's a matchup, right? The Steelers' wide receivers, they might be down Chase Claypool. So now it's like, oh, well, can Detroit cover 8? There's so many injuries, so many COVID things going on in the NFL this week, Higgins. I think the over-unders caught my eye more so than the spreads.
Okay, I'm gonna be keeping my eye out as we get closer to Sunday. You mentioned a bunch with some injury game time decisions, some COVID news that we're still waiting on with Aaron Rodgers and some other guys. I'll be on some more games by Sunday. Make sure to follow us on our social media where we'll be posting some other picks between now and our next episode. That's at MBB Pod on Twitter, at Next Best Bet on Instagram, and the Next Best Bet Facebook page and YouTube channel. Jumping into some college football, Brett, taking a look at Saturday now. Early on, I like the morning game. At least it's a morning game for me out here on the West Coast. Game start at 9 o'clock in the morning. I like the Oklahoma Sooners against Baylor. The Sooners -5.5, an undefeated team despite a quarterback change, despite a bunch of adversity that they've fought through. I really like them in this spot as they are trying to really kick it into gear, get themselves into this college football playoff rankings now. The line's only at -5.5, and I really expect them to just be able to outrun Baylor. I mean, Oklahoma's averaging over 40 points per game. Baylor struggles to get to that 40-point mark. So if Oklahoma can score like they're supposed to, this over-under set at 62, which I think is a pretty accurate one. I think it's going to be a decently high-scoring game. But I think Oklahoma's going to run away with it a little bit.
All right, you're a believer in the Sooners, Higgins. So, good luck to you because that is a team that is known to disappoint a person or two. Higgins, I'm going to the ACC. Boston College and Georgia Tech are squaring off this weekend. Boston College is actually dogs here, Higgins. But little known fact, they were down their quarterback a lot of weeks this year. I don't know the exact number, but he finally came back last week, Phil Jerkovich. And look, they won that at Virginia Tech. BC plus 100, even money right now, Higgins. I'm going to hop on that and say they can beat the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets.
Okay, I mean an ACC matchup, not the ACC matchup that I'll be paying attention to, but I like it. I like it. I'm going to talk about an ACC matchup in a little bit, but first let's go to the Big Ten. Purdue versus Ohio State. I like this game because Purdue has been a bit surprising at some points this year. I mean, they got the win against Iowa. They have covered and they got the win against Michigan State last week. I don't know if they necessarily get a win against Ohio State in Columbus, but plus 21, a three touchdown game, I'm going to be fading Ohio State. I'm taking Purdue with the points because 21 is just a lot to handle, especially when you look at an Ohio State team that has underperformed on the spread this year. They have not necessarily been fantastic at 4-4-1. And I've bet against them a few times this year, and I was right when I did. And I'm doing it again. Purdue plus 21.
All right, Purdue plus 21. Higgins, I think the playoff committee may have messed you up a little bit here because Purdue is really tough when they're not ranked and far less intimidating as a ranked team. And the committee ranked them right ahead of this Ohio State game. Maybe to help Ohio State out here and get over that little edge that they need. So avoid
It's a
the
very fair
trap
point.
there.
Yeah, I'm worried it might be a trap, but I don't see this being a three touchdown game. I'm gonna take it while it's at the full 21 because I could see this getting down to 20 or maybe 19 and a half by Saturday.
Yeah, definitely possible. People should be trying to bet Purdue. I could see that for sure.
Yeah, but I said that I had an ACC game. I also wanted to talk about Brett. NC State travels to Wake Forest to face off against the Demon Deacons. I liked Wake Forest last week against UNC. That was an absolute barn burner where Wake Forest unfortunately lost. They were underdogs in that one. I took them as underdogs and I lost. Now Wake Forest is the favorite at home against NC State again. And I'm taking Wake Forest with the points, -2, under a field goal. I like this while it's sitting there. I really think Wake Forest bounces back here. It's a home game for them. Yes, they're facing off against a ranked opponent in NC State, but I think they're going to wake up. I think they're going to be more alert after that loss to UNC that they took, and I think they're going to bounce back and be ready.
All right. Well, I think it's definitely a fair play to see the bounce back angle. NC State's look good this year. Look, Sam Hartman's played great for Wake Forest. Leary's been very good for NC State as well. So I think, this number being at around 2, I think that's a really good number, and I'm going to stay away from it. But you're right, Higgins. Should be a fun game to watch.
It's really a test onto the NC State's defense and whether they can stop Sam Hartman because Wake Forest, they've scored 40 points or more in all but 3 games. NC State has only scored 40 points in 2 games, and it was in out of conference games to start the season. So if NC State wins or if they cover, they're going to have to keep Wake Forest under 40 points, and that's going to be hard to do.
All right. Well, our last game we'll touch on before heading over into the NHL and NBA, Higgins. I'm going to look at this Georgia Tennessee game. Georgia giving 19.5 points, -115 on the spread, Higgins. I could see Georgia winning this game by 28. So I'm going to hop on this 19.5 while it's under 3 touchdowns. I would bet this all the way up to under -20.5, Higgins. So, if you're at a sports book where you're seeing 20.5, I still think that's within play. I don't necessarily know if I'd want the full 3 touchdowns with all 3 extra points made, but I truly believe this could be a 28-point, 35-point game here, Higgins.
I think you're talking similarly to why I took Purdue at plus 21, though, because, I mean, you're grabbing the favorite just under 3 full scores, and I think that's at the good spot to take that, and I took the underdog at the full 3 scores, which I think was a favorable spot to take them.
There you go. All right. Well, I'm rooting for Purdue because I'm hoping you're rooting for the dogs for me, Higgins.
Oh,
You gotta
absolutely.
beat the
Go.
Bucks here.
I'll root for the dogs for you, and I'll root for the dogs for some family that I have down in Georgia as well, Brett. How about that?
No, just me.
Just you. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's jump into some money line magic, Brett, and talk about a game from last Sunday, Brett. And it was actually the Falcons at the Saints. The Falcons started off and really dominated the first 3 quarters of this one, but you have to play 4 quarters in football, right, Brett?
Yeah, definitely need to play 4 quarters of football, Higgins, and the Falcons take that to heart, and we see what happens here.
Yeah, the Falcons going into the fourth quarter, they were leading 17-6, and then with just over 10 minutes left in the ball game, they were up 24-6 after the Falcons scored another touchdown. But the Saints would come storming back in the final 10 minutes of the game, scoring 3 touchdowns, including a 2-point conversion that failed in 2 different affairs. So New Orleans, with just over a minute left, takes a 25-24 lead in this game.
Yeah, very exciting, but Higgins, Atlanta's got a guy who's nicknamed Matty Ice, and you left him with some time on the clock, Higgins. So this is Moneyline Magic. This is ice time, baby. So let's talk about how this one ended, because it was a great finish.
Yeah, Matty Ice, you give him a full minute. He has 2 timeouts. They get the ball on their own 25 to start. Work down the field with one play, really. A pass to Cordero Patterson, 64 yards to the Saints' 11-yard line. And then, really, they just had to run the ball once, take a timeout. Then just set up to where your kicker wanted to go. You take the knee, you call the timeout. You take the knee, you set up for the kick. Young Ho Kim or Young Ho Ko kicks the 29-yard field goal to win the game 27-25. The Falcons nearly gave up another one. They had a huge lead in this one, 24-6, and they were still able to hang on to win 27-25.
Yeah, Young Wei Koo has been really good for the Falcons. The last year and a half since they signed him halfway through last season, Higgins. So yeah, I think the Falcons right now, if the season ended today, would be in the playoffs, and I don't think anyone had that preseason, Higgins.
I agree. It's a very surprising move by the Falcons. I think Cordero Patterson is probably the most surprising spot of that offense. I mean, he's eligible as a wide receiver and a running back for fantasy teams. Whoever was lucky enough to grab him at the beginning of their seasons is probably doing very well because he has been a tremendous asset running the ball and as a receiver. In this game, I think he had about 10 carries and about 6 catches.
Yeah, he would be at this point in the season, Higgins, if you're playing PPR fantasy football, he is a top 10 running back and a top 10 wide receiver. So, unbelievable fantasy asset right now.
Unbelievable is right. We're going to jump into our hockey and basketball in a second, but first, today's episode is presented by Podgo. Podgo is the easiest way for you to monetize your podcast, providing podcasters with a flat rate for ad space so you always know how much you get when you include an ad from Podgo. Apply today to become a member and immediately be connected with advertisers that fit your audience. That's podgo.co at P-O-D-G-O at, sorry, that's podgo.co at P-O-D-G-O .co, and be sure to add our podcast in the How Did You Hear About Podgo section of the application. Jumping into some NHL talk now, Brett. The Edmonton Oilers played a dramatic one on Thursday night. If you follow me on social media, I picked them on the money line to win. They did come back and get the 5-3 victory, but they have a back-to-back on the road. They're traveling to go face off against Buffalo on Friday, and you know what? I think it's gonna be a bit of an easier day because this one, Edmonton had to come back in the third period to not just tie it, but end up taking the lead and winning it. The over-under is sitting at 6 right now in this Oilers-Sabres game. I think they're still gonna hit the over in Friday's game against the Sabres because, one, it's the Sabres. Two, the offense was playing so well tonight that I think they're going to be able to play easy on Friday and still be able to play smooth and get some goals and get out there with the win. And who knows if the Sabres can contribute a goal or two as well. Get to 6, it's a push. Get to 7, it's a win. I like the chances, and the value at plus 100 is great.
Yeah, I guess the reason I'm staying away from this game, Higgins, is I clearly agree with you. I think Edmonton is the better team here. Um, but coming off a back-to-back, playing the Bruins, who are a team I think is really good, Higgins, could be a tough back-to-back spot for them. I don't really know what to expect out of Edmonton. I don't know how tired their legs will be. To be honest, I didn't watch the Edmonton Boston game. I don't know how physical it was, right? 5-3
Hmm.
seems like it was high scoring, fast paced, lots of shots on net. But yeah, Buffalo, Boston, not the farthest flight in the league, not the not the easiest flight either. So, just really no feel whatsoever for this one. But sticking on your back-to-back trend here a little bit, Higgins. Sorry, that was tough, tongue twister.
No worries.
Um, I am looking at this Columbus Blue Jackets Washington Capitals game. Capitals will also be on a back to back, Higgins, where they have to fly a little bit. And Columbus, not that far behind them in the standings, just 2 points going into Thursday night. Plus 110 on the money line, Higgins, where you are, plus 122 on the money line here in New Jersey. So I will be hopping on that. Not my most confident pick, I gotta be up front, but feels like a good spot to take the Columbus Blue Jackets with Washington coming in on a back to back.
Hey, the Blue Jackets are 5-1 at home to start the season. Capitals have only played 3 games on the road. I think you're in a fantastic spot right there. Brett, I had some opportunities to even look at some Saturday NHL as well, but as you can see from this episode, there were so many picks to go through. I thought one day of NHL was good, so let's take a look at some NBA on Friday as well. There's some interesting games out here. I was tempted. I'm going to wait for some lineups to come out on Friday, though, but I will say the game that I'm really looking at is Timberwolves versus the Lakers. I want to see what those lineups are going to be, though.
Okay. Yeah, I think there's a lot of good games. I'm interested to see Cavs Pistons. Cavs are -5.5 right now, Higgins. I want to get a confirmation on Kelly Olynyk before I start backing the Cavs. But the game I do have a pick on right now, Higgins, Mavs, Spurs. Mavs 2 point favorites in this one on the road. I think Dallas gets it done in San Antonio. Luka Doncic going to step up for his team here and get a big in division win.
Okay, yeah, I was looking at that game as well. The in-state rivalry between Dallas and San Antonio should be an interesting one as well. Another game that should be interesting, the Knicks at the Knicks at the Hornets. The Knicks playing decently well to start the season. LaMelo continuing his Rookie of the Year performance from last year. I like that as well. Brett, we also have some college basketball that's even going on right now. I bet the opening night. I bet the second night of college basketball. Since then, I've kind of backed away. I've watched some games, but I want to learn some more about some of these teams. A lot of these guys are young. A lot of these rotations are young, different. I want to see how they're vibing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely understand that, Higgins. Yeah, I don't have any picks for us right now, but some lines that may or may not stand out to me a little bit. Alabama is playing South Dakota State. South Dakota State, not a bad team, but I don't think they're at the level of Alabama. Alabama giving 12.5 points on their home court, not even -110 here, Higgins. I think that's reasonable. Texas A&M -10.5 versus Abilene Christian. Abilene Christian's a really small school in Texas, Higgins. I would expect Texas A&M to be able to handle them. But like you said, nothing really jumping to get on with all the other action going on a Friday night. All the college football we got coming up this weekend. Just one of those things. You can't bet on everything every night. Although, one interesting game coming up on Friday night, Higgins, BYU San Diego State feels like a pretty big matchup for a week one early season matchup. BYU, not the best team in their conference. Obviously, Gonzaga's there. But San Diego State, usually one of the top teams in the Mountain West. So, two teams that could be fighting for postseason berths from the mid-major level.
Absolutely. I mean, there's every once in a while you get some good looks. I mean, Friday night we also got a Villanova UCLA top 5 matchup that's going on that's going to be fantastic. And then it seems like you go to the weekends, you get a few good games, you get a few major blowouts. College basketball is a great spot to make some money in that sense with these early games. I don't like to necessarily try to handicap those because a lot of those are just assumptions because you know one team and you don't know another team at all. You know what I mean?
I definitely understand
And Brett, another thing I wanted to talk about is some MLB awards that are starting to be given out. I mean, I do have that future with Vladimir Guerrero as the AL MVP that I took as the other side to kind of hedge my Shohei Ohtani one that I took back in May outside of this podcast. But Brett, Silver Slugger awards were given out, and I want to know: do you feel like your boy, the Mets pitcher Jacob DeGrom, might have been snubbed a little bit, or since he didn't finish out the year, do you think he is an honorary of it? Because Max Fried wins the Gold Glove, wins the Silver Slugger, has the clinching World Series clinching win, has a fantastic season, but his batting stats aren't nearly as good as DeGrom's were this year, right?
Yeah, I get. Degrom was when he was playing was one of the Mets' best hitters. As funny as that is to say, um, but yeah, I mean, he was hurt for half the season. Higgins, tough to give anyone an award for that. But look, he had 6 RBIs on the year in half a season. Max Fried, as you pointed out, has 5 RBIs through a full season. So look, if someone really wanted to give the award to Degrom, I wouldn't hate them for it. But yeah, I had no idea this was even an award given out.
It was briefly trending on Twitter today on Thursday. That's the only reason I saw it, Brett.
Fair enough. I like I said, I didn't even catch it. So good for you, Higgins. This was so off my radar. But go Mets. Hey, we need some positive publicity because we can't hire anyone right
One last pick for me. I want to jump into the UFC that's going on this weekend. We didn't talk about last week's amazing card that included a Usman versus Covington Part 2. This time, it's a UFC fight night. It's at the Apex facility, so a little bit of a smaller octagon. This is on ESPN Plus, and I'm really only looking at the main event, and that's going to be between Max Holloway and Yair Rodriguez. Max Holloway is an overwhelming favorite in this. He's minus 850 on the money line to win, and so I really think the only way you can bet this is by going to the method of victory. I don't really think Yair Rodriguez, who yes, he's 14-2 in his career, but he hasn't fought the same level of fighters that Max Holloway fights. Max Holloway is an animal. He's 5'11", fighting at 145 pounds. He has more reach than anyone in his weight class. And his losses, yes, he has 6 losses. 3 of them are in his last 5. But they are to guys like Dustin Poirier in a title fight, Alexander Volkanovski in a title fight, and then right again, Alexander Volkanovski in a title fight. This man's been 4 of his last 5 fights were for the belt. He's gonna be working his way back to the belt. I think he gets a knockout here. That is going to be slightly fading what the book is saying is the favorite. They think this is going to go to a decision and Max Holloway is going to win it. I think Max Holloway is going to get the knockout. If you see how this man fights, he can absolutely put someone to sleep. 10 of his wins have come by knockout, and I think he's going to get another one on Saturday.
now. All right, I'll have to keep my eye on the Holloway Rodriguez fight.
Yep, and Brett, before we get out of here, the Levy Lock pick of the pod. You won your Levy Lock last episode. I lost my pick of the pod. That means you have the honors, good sir.
All right, Higgins, I'm trying to beat the books here a little bit, and I think, once it's announced or once it's official, Kyler Murray's playing or not playing, this line will move a little bit. I'm leaning that he doesn't play this week, Higgins, with the Panthers also having a backup quarterback on the field, and I'm going to take the under 44.5 here.
Okay, one of two unders that you're taking in the NFL this week. I like your philosophy. It's interesting. It's interesting. We're not huge on the unders here, so it's always nice when we try to do it, right?
Yeah, I guess I generally believe that the unders are the better side because everyone wants the over to hit. No one wants unders to hit. But look, overs can't hit in every game, Higgins, and you got two backup quarterbacks out there. Arizona also without I guess he's their number one running back. I don't know, maybe James Conner is, but Chase Edmonds is out. DeAndre Hopkins' stat is still up in the air. They do get AJ Green back, so good for them. But yeah, Panthers. PJ Walker hasn't looked great. Sam Darnold did not look good. James Morgan was a Jets draft pick. Now he's like their backup quarterback. So could be a little ugly for the Panthers at the quarterback position. Maybe Colt McCoy can build off of what he did last week, but under 44.5 feels like the right side here.
I think you're right. I think you're right. I'm going to stay away from it for the Pillars, though. Staying in the NFL, though, my pick of the pod, Broncos minus 2.5. 2 weeks ago, the NFC East opponent against the Washington football team, and Denver won by 7 points. Last week, against an NFC East opponent, the Dallas Cowboys, the Broncos won by 14 points. And now the Broncos at home, they're only 2.5 point favorites against the Eagles. Buy, buy, buy. Taking the Broncos minus 2.5. Absolutely going to take it before it goes to 3. I'd take it at 3. I'd still even probably take it at 3.5 too. I think the Broncos win this one handedly.
All right, sounds good. And Higgins, before we get out of here, Tua Tagovailoa is now playing quarterback for the Dolphins, who are
I
up
saw that.
6-3. I don't know what I got the box score open here, Higgins, and all of a sudden Tagovailoa pops up on the box score. He's got a completion. He's thrown 3 passes. What is going on in this football game right now?
The Ravens have done nothing but punt since the first quarter, really, it seems. And Jacoby Brissett, I think, suffered an injury and came off the field, and now Tua's back on the field. It's a very interesting Thursday night in the NFL, Brett.
Oh, at least Brissett got hurt. I just thought they subbed him in. I had no idea what the heck happened.
I think I saw he left with an injury. I have the game kind of on in the background as we are recording, Brett, but I don't have the audio on, so I didn't hear. But it looked like he had left with an hand injury or something like that. I'm not quite sure. Who knows? Make sure to follow us on social media. We'll let you know whether we were right or wrong. I'm just talking out my ass on Brissett being injured. Who knows? That's at NBB Pod on Twitter, at Next Best Bet on Instagram, and the Next Best Bet Facebook page and YouTube channel. This has been episode 173 of the Next Best Bet. For Brett, I'm Jake. We'll talk to you guys again after the weekend.